Welcome to the Private Practice Startup Podcast, where we help ambitious private practitioners across the globe to brand themselves and grow their dream practices. We chat with successful private practitioners, business coaches, and marketing experts, bringing you tons of practice building ninja tips. Visit privatepracticestartup.com for awesome resources, attorney-approved private practice paperwork, and our signature marketing e-course. Here are your co-hosts, Dr. Kate Campbell and Katie Lemieux.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another special Up Close and Personal podcast series. So this is our third Up Close and Personal podcast series, and we are super excited about today's guest and really bringing back this series. It's so much fun for us. I don't know, I kind of feel like it's selfishly fun for Kate and I because we get to learn so much about the practice builders that you guys choose, and it's really truly a joy and gives us an opportunity to connect with them and share them with you and have them answer some of the questions that you've been wanting to know, but really kind of taking a deep dive into who they are, what their life is like, and probably some of the questions you've been wondering yourself. So before we get started on our podcast today, if you're joining us for the first time, we are delighted that you're here and you are now part of our Startup Nation family. And we have a gift for you. Head on over to privatepracticestartup.com, head over to our resources tab, and there we have a bunch of resources, but you might want to grab the free paperwork course because love it or hate it, we all need it. So you can grab that and really check out what you need to have in your paperwork to feel confident and comfortable and at ease. So let's kind of just dive in and get things started. So our guest today, one of the people that you guys chose that you wanted to get up close and personal with, is Samara Stone. And Samara has been the founder of the Stone Foundation, a behavioral health firm in Maryland. She's an aspiring and innovative leader for mental health entrepreneurs. She leverages her 20 years of experience through professional development and private practice coaching with perfectedpractice.com and branding solutions with Be Brand Confident. And she totally exudes that. And we've been chatting before we hit record, so I'm really excited to talk about that. She says, join us in the Entrepreneurs Tribe, where we believe that a rising tide lifts all boats, or connect with her on LinkedIn, Instagram, or Twitter, where she hangs out as I Am Samara Stone. Welcome. It is so great to have you back. We were talking before and I was emailing her last night and I was like, oh my God, I need to update a bio from you because we had you back on episode 37, which was in 2017, and here we are 2020.
Wow. It is good to be back with you ladies. It is so nice to be back. And I remember that conversation we had. It feels like yesterday. How did 3 years just kind of like zoom past so fast?
Seriously, It's really amazing. It's so great to have you back. And we're excited to get you know you on more of a personal level.
Me too. It's going to be fun. I'm excited.
So we always just kind of like to start with like taking a step back and like, where did you grow up? Tell us about family life, siblings. What kind of kid were you?
Sure. A chatty one. So I grew up in Los Angeles, California. And I was there in the 70s as a child. I was born in 73. So I have earned all of this gray hair that you ladies see. They can't see, but it's here. But I think the thing that was so interesting growing up in sunny California was all of the different kinds of people and music and food and Hollywood, and just, I felt like the world was so wide open to me as a child. And I don't think I realized that the rest of the world wouldn't feel like that necessarily. But growing up in Los Angeles certainly gave me a very broad look at what the world had to offer. I'm an only child. And so my mom and I have been like buddies throughout my life. As a matter of fact, when I moved to the East Coast for college, she made a promise to me that, Sam, wherever you are in the world, when it's time for you to have children, I'm going to be there, right? Because, hey, if you want grandkids, I'm a single source. I've got a corner on the market, right? No competition there. And that's exactly what she's done. So she's been here in Maryland with me for 18 years, my mom.
Wow.
So growing up, I had 5 uncles, but there were probably like 3 of them that were in my everyday life. And from the time I was a really little girl, like 2-3 years old, I just referred to all of them as uncle. So they didn't have any designations. They were just uncle. And they really did dote on me and take good care of me and have fun with me. They took me to the beach and my first movie. And I really, really enjoyed being with my uncles as a little girl.
So how would your mom describe you as a kid?
My mother has always said that I was very confident and outspoken, right? Can you imagine? Confident and outspoken. I think the thing, too, that was really cool in my upbringing, and it's been neat watching all of these pieces come together in my adult life. I always, as a high schooler, and even as a middle schooler, when I could, I worked for entrepreneurs. So
really?
I worked for a gynecologist office. I worked for a man who did Easter Bunny pictures. Easter Bunny. I was so tiny too. I was like all of 100 pounds and 5 feet as the Easter Bunny. Those kids were bigger than me.
Oh, you were the Easter Bunny.
I was in the costume as the Easter Bunny. Oh my goodness.
Yes. How funny.
Yes, I did that. And then I also worked for a catering, like sandwich shop where we make cakes and, short order stuff. And so my whole experience of what it meant to work was about being entrepreneurially minded. Mm. And so even when I went away to college, I went to Hampton University in Virginia. When everyone else was working at the grocery store as their part-time job or doing work study, I started braiding hair, right? And so that was my thing that I did for earning money. Always entrepreneurially minded. Always.
Very cool. And what about and I know you mentioned you were talking about your mom. I didn't hear you mention dad or anything like that. So just did you grow up with? Oh, okay. So what did your parents do? Were they entrepreneurs themselves?
Well, kind of, sort of. So my dad was in medical school most of my upbringing. Most of my, when I think about him, I just think of these big, gigantic books sitting on the dining room table. That's kind of my experience of him in my mind's eye. When I was 14, though, he graduated medical school and actually it changed our lives dramatically. I mean, we moved to a different neighborhood. So many things changed right at the time when I was ready to go into high school. It was a really interesting shift in my experience as he kind of moved through his matriculation and mine as well. It was really a different kind of vibe. I think he was always working though, so he wasn't there often. So it was really just my mom and I as our everyday kind of life. My mom and I and our little dog Cookie, we were always together. Cookie was like a little Lassapoo, the little tiny dog, and she had this really serious underbite, so she looked real vicious. But dog. So it was literally just us, my mom, the dog, and my dad when he was not working.
I'm curious for you to tell us a little bit more about what that transition was like for you during the difficult years. You're a teenager, you're about to start high school, and you're moving. But before we go into that, we want to take a quick break for our sponsor.
If you've ever felt lost trying to find great people for your business, you need to try Wise Hire. They're an online recruiting system that makes the hard parts of hiring, like making ads, posting to job boards, and tracking candidates fast and easy. Plus, they're super affordable. We love that their DISC personality assessment helps you find exactly who you're looking for. We know it's tough to juggle all you do, and hiring the right way can be a full-time job. With Wise Hire, it feels like someone's with you, supporting you every step of the way. Their team lives and breathes their mission of both helping you hire and helping teams create fulfilling careers and happy lives. And that's something we really believe in. Right now, they're offering a free strategy session to the Private Practice Startup listeners. If you're thinking about growing your practice, you got to get on this call. They are the experts on building amazing teams from the ground up. Start hiring or book your free strategy session today at wisehire.com/PPS. That's Wisehire, WIZEHIRE.com/PPS. Tired of never quite feeling comfortable with your practice financials? I'd like you to meet Green Oak Accounting. Their goal is to empower private practice owners with the financial information they need to make good business decisions. They specialize in working with solo and group private practices in the mental health industry, so they're uniquely positioned to help with figuring out what's normal in your business finances and what's not. So if you've ever had a conversation with your accountant or bookkeeper that left you wishing that they understood private practice or had some best practices to share, head on over to greenoakaccounting.com and schedule a free consultation to see if they might be a good fit for you. They can help you with all your accounting needs, from bookkeeping to payroll to profit first and budgeting, as well as forecasting. Also, check out their new podcast, Therapy for Your Money, where Julie Harris talks about all things money, finance for private practice.
Tell us a little bit about that time for you. What was that like?
I think the biggest transition was having to move away from what had been so familiar. I don't know if you're familiar with Crenshaw in Los Angeles. It's a pretty popular street. It's in a lot of movies. It's a Black neighborhood that is very just popular in pop culture, in hip hop culture. And so I grew up right around that area, and that was kind of what I knew and loved. And so when it was time for us to graduate middle school and move into high school settings, like it felt like life was shifting so quickly, because I went to a now private school, a Catholic private school out by the beach. And so it just was like a totally different environment. A better school for me, I'm sure, academically speaking, but socially, it was way outside of what was my familiarity and my comfort zone. Mm-hmm. And so I remember, this is so bad, but I'll just tell you guys. So I would do my work, and I had really good grades. That was never an issue, but I did not like going to my ninth period class, the final class of the day. And so I actually got a job working someplace where I had to leave school before that last class. I did my work. I'd have it in her mailbox, and then I'd be off to go to my part-time job at the gynecologist's office. And it was so funny. She kind of said to me after about 20 absences, she said, "Listen, Samara, I don't care how many assignments you put in my mailbox. If you don't attend my class, I'm failing you." It's like, oh, that's not good.
Ooh.
No, yeah. So I had to quit the job and start going to class. But I think for me, the adjustment socially was so difficult. It was the first time that I was ever around an environment that was anything other than Black and Latino people. Like, mm-hmm. It was the very first time for me. Mm-hmm. And so it just kind of was a culture shock. I wasn't familiar. And then there were a few instances that happened that really just weren't so comfortable for me. And mm-hmm. I was like, wow, the only experience I'd had with white folks up until that time in my life was them as my teachers. And now they were my friends, or we were trying to become friends. And it just really felt a little bit awkward. It felt awkward. So here we go. I think that's kind of the way it kind of flowed for me, is learning how to get along with other people that were very different than I was. And mm-hmm. even to be in an environment that was different than the one that I'd been comfortably brought up in.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that experience. What helped you to navigate that challenging time with the culture shock and so many transitions happening at once?
And this might have been kind of the root of my experience in mental health. I really did a lot of personal reflection. I was journaling constantly. Just the other day, we're renovating my house, and I went through down in the basement, sorting through stuff. Oh, goodness. We've lived in this house for 18 years, so you can imagine what was in the basement as I was sorting through things. But there were old journals from back when I was 15, 16 years old. And I remember just sorting through my thinking, really spending time talking about my feelings in those journal books. And I had a few friends that I was close to. They weren't the friends I'd had in middle school. They were new friends. But I had a few friends, but mostly those were years when I kept to myself. And I think in doing so, I grew with regard to self-awareness and wisdom around like how to navigate emotions, because I had to learn how to do that. Mm-hmm. And that's why I went to school for psychology. I was really interested in my own intrapsychic makeup and kind of how to keep myself happy.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. And so when you decided to go to school for psychology, did you know at that time you wanted to become a therapist, or you were just really curious about the psychological aspect at that time?
Fun, guys. Yeah, no. So I went for psychology because I just knew people. That's what I like. So I was at Hampton University, and my junior year, my mom had moved to Las Vegas. She divorced my dad and moved to Las Vegas. And That's a cool place to go for the summer between junior and senior year of college, right?
Yeah.
Wait, is that where a lot of those items got checked off on the list that I'm going to ask you about? Just wondering.
I think I got a head start there, but no, I made quick work of that list all throughout my life. But I actually had a cool summer there because I had a chance to, again, meet so many interesting people. And one of them was this little Italian woman named Maggie Martella. Maggie was probably about 4'10", but she was spicy and she was fun and she was just, she was such a active person. And so my mom, knowing that I was in my final years at the, bachelor's level psychology, she wanted to expose me to people in the mental health field that were advanced. And Maggie was in private practice. So Maggie Martella let me spend the summer shadowing her in her private practice in Las Vegas, Nevada.
Wow.
Right. So she was a cash pay practice, which is interesting in light of my current way of thinking about things. But it was really beautiful hearing about the way she chose the clients that she worked with, her perspective on the work. And she said she was an LMFT. And she said to me in no uncertain terms, you must become a social worker, Samara. There's nothing else you need to do other than get the clinical license in social work. And I was like, are you sure, Maggie? She said, of course I'm sure, Samara, right? In true Maggie Martella style. And so I did what she said. I really did. She was such a sweet woman. Oh, she was beautiful and funny and free. I think that's one, I've always, like I said, been around entrepreneurs, but here I saw entrepreneurship and mental health fused together in this space where, she was helping the people she wanted to help, setting her own schedule, and she made her money just talking and helping people sort through their challenges. I was so enamored with that. And she kept telling me, oh, you've got what it takes. She kept telling me, you'd be great at this. And so I believe.
Wow.
That's awesome. Do you still keep in contact with Maggie today?
She's gone.
She's passed.
Oh, she's gone. But I remember right before I was getting married, I did reach out to her and found her, and she was still the same sweet little lady. Same sweet little lady. Because she had to be like in her late 60s when I met her. So by the time I was, ready to get married, she was in her 70s.
It's so neat to hear about these influences that you've had in your life from the entrepreneurial experiences at such a young age, and then to have this mentor in private practice who really believed in you and helped to instill a confidence. And you already had that confidence within yourself as being this outgoing, confident person. And that's kind of become the essence of who you are, and inspiring that in other clinicians with inspiring the branding and the confidence and the clarity. So what is it like to see all of that come full circle?
It's so interesting you say that. Like, even growing up, my mother had several good friends that all were like my mothers. Like, I probably, when I got married, I had like 5 women that were sitting in the front row claiming me as the daughter that they've poured into. But I feel like each one of them even showed me some element of what it meant to be a woman, what it meant to make a contribution to the community around you. One of them, my auntie Aziza, was a social worker, still is, very community active and involved in things in Los Angeles still. And so when I think about how I saw all of those pieces come together, all the different women that were entrepreneurially minded, active within their community and just real spiritually grounded and focused, I love knowing that the impact that I have on the people I serve is one that creates this nurturing environment where they can get to know themselves, love themselves, and then confidently show that out in the world and make money doing it, right? Like, I love doing that. Like, it is so my jam. And so I'm grateful for the people who've poured into me so that I can hold space for others.
Nice. Yeah, you are what you talk. It's all in alignment, and I love it. Like, it's just the essence of who you are. And I know Kate and I were talking a little bit about branding before we hit the record button. Kate and I really love branding, but you are just like, from like when you were a little kid, you were outspoken and confident, and that's who you are, and the mentors that you've had, and what you teach others to do. I love it. I think it's awesome.
Yeah. It's been an amazing journey. And I think, when I first opened the Stone Foundation in 2005, had someone said to me that some 15 years later, this would be what my work life would look like, I just couldn't have envisioned that. I didn't know. I couldn't have imagined the lily pads I'd need to hop to and fro to get to this side of the road. I wouldn't have known that. But looking back, man, I can see how they all really did work together to create this opportunity for me to be of service. Mm-hmm.
Nice. That's awesome. So I have a curiosity about some of the hobbies that you had growing up as well as an adult. But before we do that, let's just take a quick moment for our sponsor.
When you're in private practice, it can be tough to find the time to review your marketing efforts, let alone make improvements when they're needed. Whether you're a seasoned clinician whose current website needs to be revamped or a new therapist building a website for the first time, Brighter Vision is here to help. By understanding your business and what makes it unique, Brighter Vision's team of designers then uses this information to create a custom website catered to your specific marketing goals. Better yet, every website includes professional search engine optimization to make sure you get found in online searches, as well as unlimited technical support so your website can change and grow along with your practice. The best news of all, listeners of the Private Practice Startup Podcast get $100 off any new website. To get started, head on over to brightervision.com/PPS. Again, that's brightervision.com/PPS.
So tell us, aside from entrepreneurial stuff, because you were involved in that at a young age, what were you really into as a kid, whether it was like a fad or a hobby, and then what do you really enjoy as an adult?
As a kid, I loved reading Stephen King books.
Ooh.
I read them all. I chewed them up and spit them out. Like even the big ones. I read It, Tommy Knockers, Rose Matter, all of it. Stephen King, everything. Even his Richard Bachman's names. I read some of the stuff like the Running Man and things that he wrote in that space. It was exciting. It was like I was reading it and I was like, oh my God, my hands are sweating, my pits are sweating. I'm like, oh, what's going to happen? He was so good at leaving you lingering on the edge of like anticipation of what comes next. And so Carrie, Cujo, I did
all of them.
I like dance, and I still like dance. I was a dancer in middle school. As a matter of fact, one of my, crowning achievements when we did The Wiz in middle school, I was Dorothy because I could sing, I could dance, and I was petite enough to, get the little red shoes and the little dress thing going on. So being Dorothy in The Wiz was a huge, big deal for me when I was 13. That was really, really a big deal.
Oh my God, I would love to see a picture of you. I'm sure you have one. Send it to us.
I need to check and see if I do. I wonder, do I have a picture? These were in the days before people took pictures of every single thing. I think this was 85 when I was, Dorothy.
It would probably be in matte finish and probably really fuzzy because the light can't shoot that far. You can't really zoom in at that time, I think.
I'm going to look, though. And it was so funny. I remember when I went out there on the stage, because, I told you my mom is like my number one fan. She is everything. And right as the curtain opened and it was quiet and I'm out there, my mother jumps up and goes, sing, baby, sing.
Oh.
So, if they have a recording of it, I'm sure it has that sound in the beginning.
Your biggest fan. I love that.
So I love reading. I love dancing. I really like the outdoors. I love the ocean. I used to spend a lot of time at the beach, especially during those high school years when I wasn't so happy. My school, St. Bernard's High School, is in Playa del Rey, which is right on the ocean in Los Angeles, California. And so I would spend a lot of time at the ocean just enjoying the waves. And I still love the ocean. I wish I lived someplace where I could access it more often. Yeah, I like that. What else did I like as a kid? I like to laugh, as you probably know.
We got that.
Right? I like laughing and smiling. And so I would do things. I was just a funny person. And I'm still funny. Even my kids will tell you I'm funny. We laugh a lot. So it's a funny household. I'm pretty serious too, though. but I like to laugh about it. Mm-hmm.
Whenever we have an experience with you, I just experience you in this radiance. You just seem like such a radiant spirit, and like you have so much fun, and just the essence of who you are seeps out, and it's just a joy to experience. So thank you for being you. I just want to acknowledge that.
Wow, well, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate you saying so.
So tell us, well, I know I was going to ask you about your kids, but I'm curious. So you are like a horror film reader. Do you like horror stories, I should say? Do you like films or no?
Oh, okay, so let me tell you this. I always liked reading Stephen King stuff in my younger years, but I never liked watching scary movies.
No.
Like I didn't watch Stephen King movies until recently. My partner that I'm with now, he loves horror movies. His daughter loves horror movies. And so over the past year or two, they have introduced me to watching horror movies. So when it came out in theaters, I went to go watch it.
Oh my goodness.
It Too came out. I went to go watch It Too. This is all Stephen King stuff. And now I have an appreciation for horror. And I also like watching like otherworldly things. Like I loved the Game of Thrones. I loved what's the other series, Walking Dead with the zombies. I like the vampire stories. So, I do have a bit of a horror edge, I guess you could say.
Gotcha. So tell us about your kids.
Yep. I have 2 boys. My boys are 15 and 17. My oldest is Josiah. My youngest boy is Kingston. And I have a baby girl who's 9. She'll be 10 on October 10th. She's a 10 kind of a girl.
That's awesome. What a cool birthday.
Yeah. She's got a cool birthday. And she gets mad when you tell her birthday. She's like, that's my private business. But I'm like, Shiloh, it's cool, baby. Let them know. So I have 3, and it's interesting watching. I can see pieces of myself in each one of my children. You know how I talked about being outspoken. My little girl is like the bravest, most boldest, strongest little thing I've ever seen. Like she speaks her mind and she's unafraid and she's confident. I remember once we were at a soccer game for the oldest boy because all 3 of them played soccer. So they still play. Well, COVID. Anyhow, they were playing. And we were at a soccer game. And so this little girl was riding a scooter that she had. And she didn't want to share it with Shiloh for some reason. Like she just didn't like her, I guess, or didn't want to play with her. She was willing to play with Kingston, my middle child, but she didn't want to play with Shiloh. And so Shiloh comes over to me, and I just knew that she was going to say, oh my God, my feelings are hurt because this little girl want to play with me. And she was like, I don't know what's wrong with her. And I was like, yeah, baby, I don't know what's wrong with her. And she's like, I don't know why she wouldn't want to play with me. I don't know what's wrong with her. And I thought, that's exactly what I want you at. Not what's wrong with me. What's wrong with her? And so that's kind of the way that she shows up in the world.
Do you just like love watching that? Like it would just make me like full of joy and be like,
that's how that story has stuck with me because of her confidence. Like I just feel like it's so unshakable and strong, and my boys, they're so different and also interesting in their own ways. My oldest is a very beautiful child. You've probably seen pictures of him on social media. He's very dark and he has locks and he feels like he's an Instagram model, he's so, but I enjoy him because he's so wise beyond his years, like he is a person. If you had a conversation with him, you really feel the insight and the wisdom and even the critical thinking that he shows. He's always felt older than his years by conversation, right? Now, chores, that's another thing, but conversation, he's got it. And then Kingston, my middle son, is really sweet. Like he's very compassionate. If there's anybody that I think will become a social worker, it is him. He has such a nice heart and he's very intuitive. And I really love his way of being, So altogether, they are an interesting bunch. You can tell who runs it because Shiloh, my little girl, with all her kind of super strong leadership, she keeps those boys in line.
I love it.
Yeah, I love hearing about your descriptions of each of them and how they each have a piece of you. It's got to be so cool to see them grow and evolve. And a few minutes ago, you had kind of alluded to COVID, right? 2020 has been such a interesting and challenging year in so many ways. I'm curious, what has COVID life been like for you all in Maryland, having 3 kids and navigating all of this?
Yeah. It's interesting. Most of my work involves working from home prior to. Like I've lived on Zoom. I do my coaching calls on Zoom. The consulting work that I do internationally happens on Zoom. The only live thing that I was doing, I have an executive coaching piece that I do with T. Rowe Price that I did in person. So we moved that to virtual instead. So all of the things I have a hand in pretty much already happened virtually. I think the biggest change for me was watching how my children weren't able to move. And so some of the restrictions that I had on things like stay off of that Xbox and put that PlayStation down and get off your phone, it just didn't make sense for me to continue to say those things to them. I knew that they were, locked in a space with very little to do. And so I really did lean into allowing a lot of screen experience. And I know I'm not alone in that. And so now as school is beginning next week, trying to back them off of these screen addictions is bananas. I think the other part that was challenging, because my baby girl was very active. She played club soccer. And so she, 3, 4, 5 nights a week playing soccer, 2 games on the weekend. Like that was her schedule, real rigorous. And so all of the sedentary lifestyle has set in, not playing soccer, not being with the friends, being locked in the house with all these boys, all this boy energy. It's very stinky.
So true. I am the only girl of 4 boys, and my parents were divorced, so it was like the every other weekend and 6 weeks in the summer, and we lived in a 2-bedroom condo.
Yep.
So I know all about the stinkiness. The puppy dog smells is what we would call them, of course, until they hit puberty, then they really stunk. But anyway, I so relate.
The stinky boys. It is true. It's true. I mean, luckily we have a big yard, and so they've been able to play. They built all these bike mounds outside in the backyard. They did all this stuff outside, that they were doing basketball hoops. Like they were into it. But I think the social piece is just missing. There's nothing we can do about it. And one of the things that I've said to many parents that I've talked to about this is the dynamic that youth of 2020 have faced. It's just like there was the Great Depression and it somehow shaped that generation. This is shaping our generation, and that's just what it is. You get what you get and you don't get upset. To some degree, you have to embrace what life is offering, because this is what it's offering us. I think making decisions about safety and balancing that. I remember I was actually traveling in San Diego in the middle of March when it seemed like this was kind of crescendoing right before we were on lockdown. Like I literally got home and within 3 days they shut down. And when I say I travel a lot, my honey and I, we used to go every other month. We were someplace. And so we were coming back from San Diego. I had a job in Los Angeles, so we were hanging out in San Diego and then came home. And I remember watching, because it was California first where these things felt like they were really blooming. And I was so worried about my father, his wife, my uncles, what's happening in Los Angeles. And then I realized New York and Texas and Florida. And I was like, oh, wow, wait, this is happening everywhere. And so it was quite a frightening experience. I think it's been interesting looking at the American persona, or just our way of being and how we're responding to restriction. We really like freedom. We really like to do what we want to do and don't like to not be doing it. So that's kind of been an interesting experience watching that response. I think originally people were afraid, but as fear subsides, and even if the danger doesn't subside, fear is something that you kind of can't sustain that state for an extended period of time. So after a while, it's like, hey, it's all right. It's just a little COVID. It's okay. So you kind of you see people kind of just relaxing in it. And so I like observing human nature and how we're responding. I don't make any judgments on what is or isn't right or wrong, because everyone's got to navigate this thing as best they can.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. You mentioned that you love to travel. Once it's safe to travel and you feel comfortable doing so, where's the first place that you think you'll go?
So I have been talking to my honey about that quite a bit. I want ocean again in my life. Our last big trip was to Italy, which was beautiful. Oh, yeah.
Italy.
Amalfi Coast.
I love the Amalfi Coast.
It was so magical. Yeah, he and I have done so many wonderful things. So that was just absolutely magical. We went to New Orleans in February, and then March we were in San Diego. And so I would really want to go to the Caribbean. I want to go someplace where there's a warm ocean, not a cold ocean, because some oceans are cold. I want a warm Caribbean.
Sounds beautiful.
Awesome. Where's one of your favorite places that you traveled?
I like New Orleans. It's fun, and there's food and all kinds of debauchery. It's. I like the Caribbean, all parts of it. I love watching brown people just enjoy the sunshine and be out in nature. I love that. I liked Italy. The quality of the leather. Oh.
Yes. What? And it's like, I remember finding like a backpack. It was like $20. I was like, I have to have this.
I was like, these boots would be like, oh my God, $400 or $500 at home, and they're $60. What? That was really, really fun.
Did you have to smell the leather too?
I did.
It smells so good.
It does. It was really nice, and I especially enjoyed just the energy of Italy. It just felt real beautiful. I like Paris too. Paris is one of my favorite cities. It's just so loving and artistic, and it feels real beautiful, and decadent foods, and who doesn't like that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think now it's probably a good time to transition into the lightning round, which is always fun. Are you ready?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
Yeah. Katie, you want to go first? Or you want me to go first?
Yeah, so we were talking about pandemic, and people want to know, if you had to be quarantined with one celebrity, who would that be? What would you watch? And what would you eat?
Okay, so I'm quarantined with a celebrity. Oh, that's a tough one. Because it all depends on what I feel like doing. Let me think. I'm quarantined with a celebrity. Am I going to be philosophical and have good conversation like somebody like Oprah? Or am I going to just quarantine myself with someone like Jason Momoa? I don't know. I can't decide. And what was the other question? What would I watch or eat?
What would you binge watch and eat? Yeah.
If I had not watched Game of Thrones ever in life, I would so binge watch Game of Thrones. But the fact that I've seen it, and it's a very painful series to watch because it really hurts. Certain parts of it are so hurtful to watch. It's difficult. But I did binge watch Vikings while I was in quarantine.
I have not heard of that. What's that about?
It's about the Vikings. And
okay.
All the way back to when they were the sea people, and there's a guy in there. He's got steely blue eyes, and he's very he's got a whole kind of, Viking king energy going on. So that was
Love it.
And then food, I ate way too much food in quarantine. I would probably try to eat mangoes.
Yeah.
All right. What superhero are you most like, and why?
So there's a lady named Anyanwu. She's in a book called Wild Seed that was written by Octavia Butler. because I like science fiction a lot too. And she's probably the only Black science fiction female writer that I knew of at the time when I was in college. And so I read this book for the first time in college. But she shapeshifts and she embodies fully whatever it is that she's becoming. And she can keep herself healthy and strong. And she's mild-mannered, but she's powerful and fierce. She swims with dolphins. Like, she's so kick-ass. She's amazing. And her name is Nyani. She's like an African superhero woman. So I like her.
Very cool. And I have to ask a follow-up question. Sorry, Katie.
No, go for it.
What animal would you shape shift into first?
An eagle.
Oh.
Because I have you heard about eagle's vision? Like, it's really a thing.
Yes.
Vision. Like, they can focus on something like thousands of feet down in the water. They can see fish, and each eye can focus on 2 things at a time. So they can focus on like 4 things simultaneously. They can soar up high. I like animals, and so I would definitely fly like an eagle.
Nice. So next question is, what is something that you do that drives others crazy?
What do I do? So probably when I don't understand something, I ask like a million rapid fire questions, right? Like, well, what about this? Well, what about that? What? And they're like, easy lady, pump the brakes. Let me, try to answer the first one. So I think over intense question asking.
Over intense question asking. I like that. I do that sometimes too. I'll ask 5 questions at once. And then I'm like, okay, let me ask you one.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
What is your biggest pet peeve that other people do that drives you crazy?
I don't like when people are mean to others in any way. I don't want to see folks being disregarded or mistreated or being flippant with folks, I don't like that mean girl energy. I do not like that. And I don't like seeing it in any adults, children, no snubbing people. I don't like that.
Nice. Do you have a weird skill or talent?
Oh, I have so many. That's a weird one that I can share with you guys. Oh gosh, I can't think of any of the weird ones that I could share with you, but I do have weird skills. Well, I can contort. No, that's not a good one to share.
You're going to leave us hanging on that note, huh?
I think I might have to, just because I have weird skills.
Can contort something, and that will remain to be up to your own imagination. So, let me ask this as a follow-up question, because I did allude to this. So a while back you had posted on Facebook one of those, it wasn't a quiz thing, but it was like, look at this list and pick out by post below the number of things you have not done. So it was like a list of maybe 20 to 30 things, and you put 1. And I'm like, I got to know what that is. And you're like, guess. And I guessed it. I don't ever think you ever responded. So what was like the one? And it had things like very adventurous things, getting a tattoo, giving birth, all of these things. And you only had, I had 8 things I didn't do.
Yes.
So what was that one thing?
Skydiving.
Okay. So is that on like an agenda one day, maybe?
I would do it. I would do it if I felt like, those parachutes were secure, right? If I could hold them real tight, I'd go for it. But I love being outside. I'm a camper. I've been whitewater rafting, cliff jumping. Like, I'll do all kinds of stuff. So I probably will.
Awesome. Very cool. Kate, final question.
What is your biggest fear?
Well, that's not easy.
So I think it's about a loss of capacity. As I get closer to 50 and I think about, not being able to have my faculties, both physical and mental, not being able to be fully me and present in life. That's scary to me. And not that I don't value longevity, but the quality of life really matters. And so to me, if I can't be Samara, I'll see you guys next time. right? That's kind of how I feel.
Well, it was like pure pleasure, as I said before, and I didn't realize how enjoyable this podcast was going to be. And we so appreciate you being here. We appreciate you sharing about you and just exuding all of the yumminess that you are, because like clearly that just comes out. And it's just so nice to reconnect with you and everything that you're doing. And we thank our collective communities for saying like, yes, this is who we want to hear from. So
I'm glad, ladies. Thank you so much for having me on. And thank you for giving me an opportunity to just show up as a person, not as a branding expert or a pro insurance practice coach or a clinical social worker, but just
I forgot about those things actually, because I'm just enjoying connecting with you. That's right. We do those things.
I know this. After hearing all of this and connecting with you again, it just leaves me wanting more. I just want to hang out with you in person, in real life. Maybe someday we'll make that happen.
You could. You should. I would love that.
Awesome. Well, Startup Nation, we thank you for hanging out with us on this Up Close and Personal podcast series. And don't forget, we've done 2 other series and actually interviewed many of the practice building coaches and experts that you guys are most interested in hearing. So definitely check out that link if you missed it before, and stay tuned for the other ones in this series.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks for joining us on The Private Practice Startup. Visit theprivatepracticestartup.com for awesome resources, free trainings, attorney-approved private practice paperwork, and so much more.